Unit 3, Formative 3, Day 2. Today we're going to be learning about the substitution method. So yesterday in class, or today in class, depending on when you're watching this, we learned about systems. So we're starting to work up with systems. Remember, systems is just more than one equation. And what we need to understand about the system is that the answer is the point at which the equations meet, or on a graph, the point where the lines intersect. Okay, so our answer has to be a point. So we need to know what the x is and we need to know what the y is. Okay, so when we're talking about substitution, the first thing you need to remember is what substitution means. Okay, so what substitution means is you plug something in. That's what it means to substitute. You're plugging something in for something. So for instance, 3x minus 5 when x equals 2, what you're doing is you're taking this 2 and you're putting it in for the x. So this is really 3, and instead of the x, we're replacing it with the 2 minus 5. So we're just replacing it, we're substituting it. So 3 times 2 is 6 minus 5, which is 1. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today with the substitution method. Okay, in order to do that, though, we need to remember that we need a variable by itself. If we don't have a variable by itself, we can't use the substitution method without doing some work. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Solve the system. So here's our system, y equals negative 4x plus 8 and y equals x minus 7. Now we could graph, but sometimes graphing just doesn't work. Sometimes it's not pretty points, sometimes it's really big numbers, so we need to know a different method to solve the system. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use substitution. The first thing you got to do is figure out, do you have a variable by itself? Yes, you do. You have y by itself. Okay, so we know y equals this, and what helps is if you box it the way I box it. Okay, again, make sure you're writing this down. Make sure you're writing out the whole problem and all of the work, so that way tomorrow you can know what you're doing. Okay, so I'm going to take that negative 4x plus 8 and I'm going to substitute it in for the y in the other equation. Okay, so I need to plug it in for the y. So I'm just subbing that in. Okay, so I'm going to replace the y with negative 4x plus 8. I'm going to put that in parentheses just to make sure I know it's one thing. And that equals, I just bring down the rest of the equation. So the rest of my equation was the equals x minus 7. Okay, so right here I just brought this down. I plugged in all of the negative 4x plus 8 in for the y. Okay, now since there's nothing on the outside of that parenthesis, that's just negative 4x plus 8 equals x minus 7. Now we have to go back to solving. We have to know how to solve equations. You cannot pass algebra without knowing how to solve an equation. Okay, so remember we can put our line down the middle. We want to move the x's to be together. So if I want to move something that's negative, I add it. So I'm going to add my 4x. So those go away. I'm left with 8 equals, remember this is 1x plus 4x, which is 5x minus 7. Keep getting x by itself, so we have to add the 7, add the 7. Those 7's go away, so we have 15. Oop, I'm going to actually put that a little bit higher. So we have 15 equals the 5x. Keep solving. Divide by 5, divide by 5. So x equals 3. Okay, I have my x. Now, do not stop. We cannot stop. We are solving a system. We aren't solving for one variable. I have to know both variables. So to find the y value, I have to take this x that I just found and plug it in for x. Now you can put it back into either one of the equations. It doesn't matter which one. Okay, so when I plug that back in, I get y equals, now instead of the x minus 7, I'm going to replace the x with 3. So I get y equals 3 minus 7. Well, 3 minus 7 is negative 4. So now I have an x value and a y value. I still need to write it as a point. My answer is a point. So remember, x goes first, so my answer is 3 comma negative 4. That is your answer. Okay, so yes, it's a lot of work, but it's not impossible. Let's try another one. Alright, solve the system. X equals 3y minus 4 and x plus y equals 4. The first thing you have to look for is, do I have a variable by itself? If you do, you're going to use substitution. So if you look, we do have x by itself. and x equals 3y minus 4. So what we can do is we can take 3y minus 4 and we can replace it for x in the other equation. So I can put it in here for the x. That's called substitution. Okay, so instead of x, I'm going to write 3y minus 4. Again, I put that in parentheses so I know it's one thing. Bring down the rest of the equation. So you had plus y, you had equals 4. Now what you look for is there something outside your parentheses? No, there's not. So it's just 3y minus 4 plus y equals 4. I'm going to put my line down the middle. Now if you look, I have a 3y and a plus y on the same side. Since they're on the same side of the equal sign, I just put them together. So 3y plus y is actually 4y minus 4 equals 4. Let's move that 4 to the other side by adding it since it was minus. So you get 4y equals 8. Divide by 4. And x equals 2. Alright, so I found my x value, but I am not done. Once you find one of them, you have to plug it back in. Now again, it does not matter which equation you plug it into. Okay, I just try to figure out which one looks a little bit easier. To me, that bottom one looks a little bit easier. So I'm going to plug it into the x plus y equals 4. Remember, I'm replacing the x with this 2 down here. So this is 2 plus y equals 4. Now I have to solve for y. So I subtract 2 from both sides. I get y equals 2. So now I have my x value and my y value, but I'm not done. The answer to this system is a point, x comma y. So our answer is 2 comma 2. Please write your answer as a point. Okay, one more. Alright, solve the system. 3y plus 2x equals 43 and y equals 6x plus 1. Okay, do I have a variable by itself? Yes, I do. I have y by itself. So I know that y equals the 6x plus 1. So I can replace y in the other equation. So up here where the y is, I'm going to replace it. Okay, so I have 3 parentheses 6x plus 1. So I just replaced the y. Remember, I put it in parentheses so I know that it's one thing. Okay, plus the 2x equals 43. Now you can see why I wanted to use the parentheses, because that 3 is going to be multiplied by everything, not just the 6x. It has to multiply with the 6x and with that 1. 3 times 6x is 18x. 3 times 1 is 3. Bring down the rest of your equation, so plus 2x equals 43. Now if you look, I have multiple x's on the same side of the equal sign, so I can just put them together. 18x plus 2x is 20x, plus your 3 equals 43. Keep solving. You should be very good at solving at this point. So minus 3 from both sides. So 20x equals 40. Divide by 20. And x equals 2. Okay, I have my x value. Am I done? No, I'm not done. I have to plug that back in. Okay, now again, it does not matter which one you plug it into. There's always one that's going to be a little bit easier. So if you look at this one, I'm going to plug it into the bottom one. Y equals 6x plus 1. It's just less complicated. So I'm going to replace the x with a 2. So this is y equals 6 times 2 plus 1. So y equals 12 plus 1. So y equals 13. Alright, I have an x value and I have a y value, but I'm not done. My answer to every system is a point. So my answer needs to be written as a point. So my answer is 2, 13. Alright, so I know this is a lot. We'll practice it the next 2 days. Come prepared. Have your notes taken. We'll see you tomorrow.